Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Ma and thank you for joining me for this video produced for the Social Media and Business Performance blog. And in this video I'm going to be discussing some lessons learned from John Green's use of social media in marketing. So I think the first and most important lesson that you can learn from this blog post or this case study is that there's no substitute for authenticity. In all of John Green's social media artifacts, he is an authentic human being. You never get the sense that he's doing this social media exercise just to convince you to buy something or to sell you his book. He writes about a diverse number of topics, or I should say vlogs as well, on YouTube about a diverse number of topics, all of which seem to genuinely be of interest to him, and you never feel like he's limited himself in his social media to specifically market something. And part of that is because he's genuinely using social media as a human being, not as a business. So it feels very authentic because it is authentic. So as a business, how do you apply that lesson to yourself? Because obviously companies are not as multifaceted as human beings. So how can a company be authentic? And I think where you start is by building a framework to work within. Human beings come with their built-in framework because I like what I like, and there's a number of different things. And generally speaking, I will stick to within my framework of my likes and dislikes. Companies need to develop that a little bit more artificially. But most companies already do, I think, have a framework for authenticity, and that is in the mission, vision, values statement. So say, for example, you are an ice cream parlor. You might have a mission to sell ice cream to your community. Your vision might be to be a community landmark, a place where people come to enjoy their summer nights, or to say, hey, I'll meet you at the ice cream parlor, as a landmark in the community. And your values might include some things then like family, like summer fun could be a value for an ice cream shop. And so then when you're looking at your social media strategy and your kind of your artifacts, your experience, you can look at producing artifacts that match within your framework for authenticity. So now you're not just posting about ice cream, you're not doing the hard sell. If anything kills authenticity, it's the feeling like someone's trying to sell you something. So you're not posting about any one thing. You might be posting about ice cream, yes, because that's your business, but also about families, and you might post things like how to have fun at the cottage that aren't necessarily related to ice cream but are related to your authenticity framework. So I mentioned in authenticity the need to be diverse. So you can't be authentic if you're only talking about one single thing, because human beings are multifaceted, and I guess because human beings are kind of our ideal for what we look for when we look for an authentic social media experience. So to cultivate that diversity, what you really need to do is go back to that framework for authenticity and find multiple topics that you can discuss within that framework. So what are the benefits of this? You get multiple audiences. So what John Green has done is he is, yes, an author, but also he produces videos online where he talks about world issues, and he also produces videos for education about history and world politics and stuff like that. So he has multiple audiences. If you don't like John Green's books, there's still an opportunity for you to like John Green because maybe you really like his history lessons or something like that. So as a company, the more diverse you can be, the bigger audience you can potentially exploit. Well, I shouldn't say exploit because that's not particularly authentic, but you know what I mean. So that gives you multiple avenues to appeal. Be where your audience is. So John Green is on a lot of different social media sites, predominantly YouTube, but also Tumblr and Instagram, and other similar things. And the reason why this works out so well for him, I think, is because he's a young adult author, and there are a lot of young adults on the internet, on YouTube, and on Tumblr in particular. The Tumblr audience is predominantly under 25, so he is where his audience is. So as a company, how do you apply that? Well, you have two options. You can do environmental scans and find out where your audience is, um, or you can just start and pull your audience to you. Option two is definitely the more difficult option. John Green has leveraged both of these. So, for example, when he started his work on YouTube, he was on YouTube just because that was the best place to do what he wanted to do, just to create a video blog with his brother. And as his fame as an author grew and as his YouTube fame grew, he pulled the audience in towards him. But when he moved off into Tumblr, he was definitely going to where his audience was, because he wasn't previously engaged in Tumblr, and then a lot of his fans from YouTube were on Tumblr, so that's why he moved to engage with Tumblr as well. So you can leverage both of these things to form your social media strategy. Just know that to pull your audience to you, you may engage in more authentic community, but it will probably take longer to do. So the next lesson, social media drives sales, but sales also drive social media. So in John Green's case, certainly his success on YouTube and in social media has driven sales of his novels. But what you can also see is the inverse relationship where sales of his novels drive engagement with his social media. So what's the lesson from that? Don't expect social media to equal sales in a one-to-one relationship, because it's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to say, I have this many followers and I've made an equal or greater number of sales because of that many followers. It just won't happen. Not all of John Green's YouTube subscribers will buy or read his books, and not all the people who read his books will go onto his social media, but they definitely influence each other. I think the other thing is that social media is about community before sales, and because authentic communities are not typically based on sales. So develop your social media community, but when you develop a community, you will also develop a group of people who want to buy what you're selling. So they can be correlated, they just may not be one-to-one. And I think the last lesson that I wanted to talk about is that social media engagement really drives opportunities. So for John, as his fame grew in the Vlogbrothers space, he was able to branch out and start doing Crash Course, which is a different one of his products. So how can you apply this? As your reach through social media develops, so does your ability to do new things. And because social media is such a new field and there's so many different opportunities, you should think outside of what you think is conventional limits. So conventionally, educational videos are not produced by individuals and put onto YouTube. They're produced by big companies that sell textbooks or other things like that, and they're marketed via DVDs straight to teachers or educational school boards or stuff like that. So if John Green had looked at the traditional model for producing the kind of material and said, he would have said, well, there's no way. Aside from getting a deal with a company that does that, how are you going to get into that space? So he didn't do that. He said, I want to make videos where I can teach people things, and YouTube, I know that. I already can teach people things through YouTube, so I'm going to leverage that success. So I guess the bottom line there is look to things that you want to do, not to things that you think are possible, because social media can create its own possibilities as your reach develops and as your influence grows. And so that is all of the lessons that I thought were really important from this case study. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I hope you enjoyed this video.